services. That means country adding to its productive capacity, whereby people's standard of living will go up and all that. Now, why the economic growth what will matters in today's conditions as such? As per the World Inequality Report of 2022, top 10% of people in India, they got 96 times more income than the what called others. And as per the Oxfam report, International Report 2021, the top 1% of the population, they are cornering about 77% of the wealth. Now, when we look at the preamble to the Constitution, what does it say? We have committed ourselves to sovereign, secular, socialist, democratic political republic. In other words, we are committed to what we call the welfare of the masses. So that means the growth and welfare must go in what we call hand in hand. Now, as per the World Poverty Clock in 2021, about 6% of Indians, or roughly 86.8 million, are living in extreme poverty. As per the Niti Aayog report, 25% of Indians are what we call still poor. In other words, every fourth Indian is in what we call poverty. Now, let's look at the what we call sustainable development goals. Up to 2015, people, prosperity, planet, peace, and what we call partnership. We all know that in a country, if only one section continues to develop at the cost of what we call other sections of the society, social strife will result. There will be virtually chaos after some time. So that's the reason that most of the economists and experts, they advocate inclusive economic growth. We have seen, what happened in what was Sri Lanka, committed to what was welfare of its masses. There the government has what called slashed, government taxes, okay, and then what provided what subsidized, what things and all that. And since the tourism got badly affected because of the COVID, and look at, today the Sri Lanka is staring at what we call the worst economic crisis never witnessed during the last 73 years. But when we say this, we are not saying that a country should not be committed to what we call people's welfare. Definitely. And more so in our case, since we have committed to what we call the welfare of masses, or welfare of our Indians, welfare of our people. But whether the said welfare should be at the cost of growth? Do we allow growth to be the casualty because of what we call our excessive welfare, the freebies being given by the different state governments from time to time and all that? Now, what should be our agenda? A realistic agenda. Number one, we need to make agriculture a viable, what we call occupation. In the sense, we must enable, create the necessary infrastructure for the farm incomes to grow. We need to reduce the urban-rural divide. We all know that technology enables change, but it's the people who drive the change. So let us try to harness the technology for the development's sake and focus on creating jobs. Today, the millennials or the young workforce, occupy a major chunk of our total population. Now, unless until we provide gainful employment to these youngsters, how we expect them to contribute to the economic development of the country? In other words, mere incremental steps will not do. We need a transformational change in terms of the sectoral reforms, banking reforms and all that. Merely reducing some corporate taxes, providing some incentives and all that, that will not do. Now, given the equal accessibility, affordability, availability of all of the resources, today it is a human resource which provides a cutting edge. So, are we doing enough to improve, to update, to reskill the human resources? And we know that innovation is the key for the growth. Are we doing enough for innovation? Now, when we look at the research and development expenditure, we find that it's just 0.65% of GDP. Whereas in the case of China, it is 3%. And in the case of Israel, it is 4.5%. That means we are spending the lowest on this, R&D. Now, unless and until we focus on what we call research and development, update our what we call skills of our human people, it's very difficult to move forward. Now, most importantly, our government should focus on healthcare, skill development, and education. When we look at Finland, we find that education played a key role in the economic development of the country. And similarly, it is said, a sound mind in a sound body. So we need to take care of the health of the people. Now, since we say that human resources provide the cutting edge, how are they in terms of their skills? Because it is said, absolute technology is dangerous, but absolute human resources is disastrous. Are we doing enough to develop the skills of the people on a continuous basis? So what we should aim is, we should aim at a resilient, inclusive and sustainable. Merely achieving the growth, that's not enough. The growth must be sustainable over a period of time. So the focus should be not just helping the people through freebies and some subsidized schemes and all that. Fine, you do that. But the most important thing is that how we are going to eradicate poverty or reduce it to the the lowest minimum. And look at the this famous Chinese saying, give me a fish, I eat for the day, and teach me to fish and eat for a lifetime. I think this, quote, conveys a very, very important message, for the powers that be in India. Unless until the people have the required skills, know-how, infrastructure facilities for experimenting their ideas, they will not be able to support themselves and support the country. So the focus should be to enable the people to support themselves first, so that they can support the society in general later. So the long-term benefits of development outweigh the handouts. Of course, few state governments and all that, left and right, they go on announcing freebies, they waive the bank loans and all that. So fine, fantastic, fine. Because by doing such things, you are earning the trust of the people. But that is a transitionary, that is a temporary. Ultimately, as a government, you are committed to their long-term welfare. And when you are spending, precious resources for these freebies and all that, which will not add to any kind of, productive capacity of the economy, you are bartering away their long-term welfare for the short-term benefit as such. So, in other words, development and welfare must go hand in hand, not at one at the cost of the other. And most importantly, the development has to be people and the nature centric. Sustainability and economic development, they have to go together. Because tomorrow, what kind of environment, what kind of society we are going to hand over to the future generations. So let us keep this debate of economic growth versus welfare aside, and let's focus on the long-term growth while working for the welfare of the people. Thank you.